so many agents around the world, and this is the frightening part, have clients right now, and you, Gary, as well, I promise you this.
Okay.
You have clients in your database right now that have already bought real estate outside of where you live.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
They didn't call you because they only knew you to be the local expert. And what we do is we teach agents on how to truly brand themselves and create content, and also legally, and I'm going to say this again, legally co-market listings of other GMA members that give the authorization with the sellers, to where now you, Gary, you can create your own global real estate portfolio within minutes with the technology that we have.
Right. Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host. I'm so glad to have you back listening to the show or watching. If it's in recorded mode, you get the video, of course, on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and so forth. We have a great guest today. Olivier Mevellec is going to help you explain to you how we work with luxury clients from around the world. And that the names of our businesses are very much alike. So when we were introduced, his mother was actually networking with one of the agents on my team, and that's how the introduction came about. And when I first met Olivier, guys, I was like, right away, I've got to have him on the podcast and also teach a Monday Night Live class. So you're in for a treat, especially if you're an agent. And if you're not an agent, you're a consumer, you need to make sure your agent listens to this podcast, okay? So, Olivier, first of all, I just want to say thank you very much for taking your time to join us today. Thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me. Just very excited to be a part of your podcast today.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to do it. And if you wouldn't mind, I always like to start at the beginning, because a lot of us grew up wanting to do something else. We were going to be, an astronaut or a doctor or attorney or something. I don't remember anybody ever saying, well, I'm going to be in real estate. So, but was there something when you were growing up, maybe because of your mother, or what was it? What was the inspiration for you to get into real estate from the beginning,
Yeah, that's a great question. I used to at first I played golf at high school. Then I went college at a high level, and then I became a golf professional. I played golf for a living, and I did the European PGA Tour for a little while. A lot of circuits in Florida and Texas here in the United States, and I just I realized that. I played, when you play golf with someone, you usually spend 5 to 6 hours with them. Played with a lot of affluent businessmen, from attorneys, doctors, business owners, entrepreneurs. And it was a very natural way for me to kind of go from the golf business into the real estate business, because my father has always taught me, at a very young age that, your network is extremely important. And it's a kind of the same thing with the real estate business. Our sphere of influence is how we survive on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the relationship. That's the key to success.
Correct.
And most agents eventually will get that if they stick with it long enough and learn. In the beginning, you're trying to be the best you can be. And sometimes it means taking on a new identity, only to realize later on, being your true, genuine self is the best thing you can do, but be your highest and best version of your true, genuine self, and that's what people, they want to know you, like you, and trust you. So when you first got into real estate, what was your first experience or first line of business? What was it, first time home buyer, investor, luxury? Was there anything particular that you focused on?
No, it was mostly residential here in Dallas, Texas, where my mother and we started the Mevellec team. And right off the gate, it was kind of different. First of all, if you've never been to Dallas, Texas during July and August showing homes, you haven't lived. It's really, really hot. This is in the days of Mapsco and before the technology and how easy. Not easy, but it definitely is easier today. It was residential, just again from the sphere of influence. And we were, obviously, because we are from France, our mindset was to kind of get into the international sales. and that was very challenging because, as you know, when you have your license here in America, you are bounded by your state. If your license is in Texas, you stay in Texas, and it really didn't make a lot of sense to us because we knew people everywhere around the world, and when we started making announcements to our database that, in France or in the Caribbean islands or in Florida or in other states around the United States, people were asking us like, hey, can you help me with my real estate needs on the buying or the selling side of it? And, we were telling them, no, we can't, because we are limited to Texas. What we can do is create referrals with agents that at the end of the day, we didn't really know, we didn't have the relationship with them. We were under the same brokerage as them, but that was as far as it took us. And then that's how we started our international journey, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And for everybody listening, can you give us the name of your organization?
Sure, of course. So it used to be called IRES, which was International Real Estate Specialist. We created that in 2006, and in 2014 we rebranded to Global Marketing Agent.
Nice. And so everybody listening, now you know why my ears perked when I first met Olivier, because we're, of course, the Global Investor Agent team. And what's really neat about what we both do, Olivier, is a lot of our clientele is the same. I mean, a lot of people who are affluent and buying luxury homes are also often investors, and vice versa. A lot of people who invest end up becoming, quite wealthy and buying luxury homes. So, so now is that a designation? So can people get a designation to do that with you and your mom, or do they still go through like a NAR class, or how does that part work?
Sure, great question. So within NAR, you have one designation within NAR. It's called the CIPS, Certified International Property Specialist. People have asked me, because we've trained over 10,000 real estate agents in the last 20 years, which is a pretty large number. And people ask me always, what is the difference between you and CIPS? We are very different, night and day. CIPS is more kind of an overview of different cultures and how things are based in different countries, but we are very hands-on into the transaction itself. And so that is a big difference. We also provide international agreements that were made by our attorney who worked for ExxonMobil for over 32 years. And so we're very hands-on into the actual transaction from A to B. And so to answer your question, there's no license really on the international levels of being able to help one of your clients buy or sell in Mexico or in Portugal or wherever in the world. It's more or less the knowledge and having the agreements, and I think the agreements is the biggest key into creating the relationships, because within every brokerage, and especially the ones that are global, they have a referral agreement from one country to the other, but those referral agreements between you and I, they don't mean much, and so it's very important to have agreements that will solidify the partnership between you wherever you are located and also where the property is located.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, as far as the reach, like like my team, it's we have done business in other countries, but it's usually people in other countries doing business with us here in the States. It's more of that than the other. However, we have done business, of course, in Canada and Mexico because we're right next to them. But even as far away as India. So is this something, the reason I'm asking is real estate, the industry is going through a major transformation. Everybody's watching the big box companies, Remax, Keller Williams, all being sold and being bought. And there's nothing wrong with the people. They're wonderful people. It's just the model. It's become an obsolete model. You always will have the franchise model, just like we still have horse and buggies. We have propeller-driven planes, but of course, most people want to fly on jet planes. It's not like they're going away. They're just going to have their place in history. With the new model, the new organizational model, it's a lot easier to grow and expand on a very broad scale, not just across the United States, but across the world. I mean, we're living proof. I mean, we've got active clients right now, collectively today in 13 different countries. But what I noticed is a lot of other countries, the real estate industry is not as evolved as it is like in like the US and Canada, for example, but we
Mhm.
still do business there. So tell us a little bit about what that's like. I mean, what country would you say has been the biggest challenge? And let's follow it up with what country has been the greatest, the most pleasant for you to work with. If you don't, we want to get you in trouble. I don't want everybody from your home country of France calling and say, hey, Olivier, why did you say that?
No, no, I hear you. I mean, you're right when you said that the real estate is done differently, outside the U.S. and Canada, and I'm sure and maybe a lot of agents on listening to this will know that, outside of the U.S. and Canada, there's no really licensing laws like there are here in the United States. In a lot of countries, believe it or not, you can get up one day and say, I'm a real estate agent. I always joke around, but if you go to Costa Rica, you get in a cab, the cab driver will try to sell you real estate.
Yeah.
And this is no joke. I mean, the transactions are done differently. It's the attorneys who actually do all of the legal paperwork.
Hmm.
The commission structures are different in some countries, especially, you talked about France. France, there's VAT, the value added tax, and so there's a lot of things that have to be taken, into the mix of the transaction itself. And going back a little bit to what you said earlier, a lot of people today, are moving for different reasons, and not just from here to the US, but more Americans today are moving to other countries.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and it's I know the baby boomers obviously has been a big thing, but the biggest things are really, and it's a surprise to a lot of people. People think a lot of times is because of lifestyle is cheaper in other countries, but the biggest one that it's been in the last couple of years is because of healthcare.
Mm.
You can buy a home in a lot of different countries around the world and acquire residency, obviously,
Mhm.
depending on the price point that the country dictate. They're all different. Mexico, obviously European countries. And from there, you have access to all the medical, access of that country, which in a lot of countries is free.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so for Americans, that come from this kind of healthcare system to that one over there, it's night and day. But then, yes, the lifestyle, the food tastes different. I mean,
Mhm.
and again, the baby boomers, the empty nesters, but the baby boomers is the biggest one. I think that
Yeah.
the number is 79 million baby boomers in this country. That is a
Wow.
record number.
Mhm.
And by the day, 10,000 of them are retiring here in the United States. 3,000 of
Mm.
them in Canada are retiring on a daily basis. So between North America, you've got 13,000 baby boomers retiring a day. And what are they looking for? They're looking for agents like yourself, like myself, or agents in your team that very importantly, and this is the biggest thing I tell agents all the time, create valuable content of other opportunities in other countries. And that content creates more engagement within their sphere of influence than anything they'll ever do, because, you can create things like, when I tell people that in Costa Rica for $1,000 a month you can live like a king and a queen, they look at me like
Yeah.
I come from Mars. I'm like, no, it's an actual thing,
Mhm.
and you can still go out and eat. You can have your housekeeper if you wanted. You've got your internet. You're not living $1,000 a month here in America. You're not surviving.
Oh,
Um,
no.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, which is the worst and which would, I mean, obviously there's countries we tell agents not to
Mm.
kind of go after. Some of those
Mhm.
countries, China,
Mhm.
Cuba, Venezuela, obviously, Venezuela, I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of changes happening. It's still too
Mhm.
early. Don't really know where it's going to go. It could go in favor because, Venezuela has got some absolutely stunning beaches,
Yeah.
off the coast that are great for, again, retirement opportunities
Mhm.
for a lot of people. But, it's the one thing that I will say about the frustrating, to answer your question, part of doing these transactions is in America and Canada, they go a lot faster than they are outside.
Okay.
To do a transaction, in Central America and the Caribbean and Europe, sometimes it can take months.
Yeah.
Here in America, as you know, you can go to the title company and it's done in a couple hours.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Is there a region of the world or country um, that is more fun to work with, or is it? And also, is it because maybe they have more? The industry is more structured. The real estate industry is more structured. Or what makes it easier to work in the countries that are actually easier to work in?
Yeah, so that's another great question, because all the countries outside the United States that you hear that they have it or not, I can tell you, they do not have an MLS
Yeah.
system like they do here in the US and Canada. A lot of these countries, most of these countries work mostly on non-exclusive listings, not exclusive listings like we do here in the States and Canada, which sometimes makes it very challenging, because at the end of the day, you'll have Coldwell Banker has the listing, Remax has the listing, Keller Williams has the listing. And then it's just sometimes it's just very, very challenging. And a lot of agents, it becomes kind of like a cutthroat kind of situation. Like, here we're all about sharing, right? I'll share this with you because, again, at the end of the day, I know that I have an exclusive with my client, so I'm protected. In other countries, it's not protected. And then if you try to get accurate information about some listings. Let's say you have a client who says to you, Gary, I'm interested in buying in Portugal or Costa Rica. There are certain websites you go on to, you've got Listing Globally, or you've got James Edition, you've got ProperStar, you've got maybe, 4 or 5 others alike. But the problem is that the agents are the one posting the listing. And 90% of the time, they forget about that listing when it sells, when it expires. And so you, as an agent, you're looking for listings. And then after doing all the work, you found out that property was sold 6 months or 2 years ago. And so that's another challenging. But last thing I'll say on the whole MLS thing and the easiest because it's hard for me which one is the easiest. I will tell you, we just created a partnership with a company called GDX, Global Data Exchange. And this company is trying to change MLS all around the world, meaning that they are literally trying to create RESO standard, guidelines for these countries to get into and kind of doing this on an easier basis for us, meaning us agents in America or agents in Canada and vice versa, for all of us to connect in a way where it's in real time rather than not knowing if it's expired or sold.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting. I've personally done business overseas, and like in India, that was a real challenge. Thankfully, we had somebody over there. My team, it's a very large team. We're in 38 states, 60 different markets. But when we had a couple listings years ago in India, eco resort, tea plantation, coffee plantation, things like that. But thankfully, we had somebody. Our team's inside EXP, by the way. So we had an EXP managing broker over there who studied at Oxford, great English. Had also lived in the States, and of course, lived in India. And he helped us navigate that. It was very important because we learned that like a lot of other countries in the world, actually you're running on 2 different economies. The one that the public sees and the one that you don't see.
Yeah.
And it can be a real challenge because you don't know who you're dealing with sometimes. And but I really appreciated that. And also, most people are very friendly and open. If you're a good person, you're trying to do something good for somebody, usually you'll attract the right kind of people. I'm not saying it's perfect. There are, just like the United States, you've got to really have measures in place to protect yourself and your clients. But in any case, so back to what you're doing. Is there talk a little bit about the what it is that you do as far as like teaching people? Are there systems and tools that they can use and strategies, methodologies they would have available to them? Because I want these guys to hear this and realize that it's just because you're from France and I'm from Germany doesn't mean you have to be from a foreign country to do this. We just happen to have a different vision because we lived in foreign countries. But anybody here can do this. I mean, would you agree?
Absolutely. I tell agents all the time, why only make money locally when you can do it globally?
Want to learn what's working right now in real estate? Then don't miss Monday Night Live, happening every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Each week, we bring you expert training on real estate investing, agent attraction, lead generation, marketing, and AI-powered strategies to help you work smarter and scale faster. You'll also hear inspiring success stories and lessons learned from some of the most successful real estate leaders and investors in the industry. Whether you're a brand new agent, a seasoned investor, or building a high-performing team, there's something valuable for you every single week. Learn, network, grow. Registration is completely free. Simply visit globalinvestoragent.com to reserve your seat for an upcoming Monday Night Live session. Join us this Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and discover strategies you can put to work right away. We can't wait to see you there.
Right? You're fishing in a much larger you're fishing in an ocean rather than in a pond in some ways. And so all agents, and it does not matter if you're licensed in California or Texas, because again, as you know, and it's the same thing as Canada, as you know, as you live there, it's all by provinces and so but actually NAR, which is Article 11 of the Code of NAR, actually, I don't know the word by word, but I'm going to paraphrase it. It tells you that you as a licensee in the United States can still do real estate in other countries and provinces. What you have to do, though, is create a legal partnership between you and the licensee wherever the property is located. Okay? So... yeah. And that's the big key, because a lot of times when I see on boards or especially on Facebook, they say, "Hey, I have family." Let's say that it's an agent from Florida, and they'll say, "Well, actually, this is a perfect example. I have one right now that lives in Fort Lauderdale, and she's from the Bahamas." And she says, she reached out to me. She says, "Olivier, my parents wants to sell their home in the Bahamas, but I'm licensed here in Florida, and I've seen you on school and on Facebook, and can I do it? Can I actually secure the listing?" I said, "Absolutely." Because again, we have all of the agreements between the agent in Fort Lauderdale with the client in the Bahamas. Then again, by the laws of Bahamas, we have to do a co-brokerage agreement with the agent where the property is located. Once these two agents now are partnered up and the property goes live, then we kick in the global marketing agent, what we call the co-marketing system. A co-marketing system is the ability to literally create your own army of agents wherever in the world it makes sense to promote, advertise, and bring buyers to that property in the Bahamas. So rather than having just the agent in the Bahamas and just the agent in Fort Lauderdale do all the work, now those two agents can have the conversation and say, "Okay, who buys real estate in the Bahamas? Where do we need to go and promote this? We need to go to obviously northeastern part of the United States. We need Canadians. We need some European countries, some Caribbean countries." And now I have to tell you, there is this AI. It's called Prompt Cowboy. Okay? Prompt Cowboy. It is the best prompt maker you've ever seen in your entire life, because we as consumers of Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or whichever one you use, we put very basic prompts, right? We don't ask the right question. We don't put in the right prompts. If you go on prompt and then Cowboy, it's free. It's going to bring you a prompt that's a page long. You just copy and paste it. You bring it over to Claude. And so what I do with that, for what I'm telling you, is I do that with what's called real estate migration patterns. Okay. I take a zip code, or I take a country, or I take a province, and I go in deep term. I said, "Give me the real estate migration patterns for this address." And it's going to give me a report, like literally, that this report, on top of that, I can take to my seller wherever the property is located to bring data. Rather than me saying, "Hey, by the way, my company is global and we're going to take you global." I want to be specific in the market. And so that's a huge thing. Again, on what we do, to answer your question, is we teach agents to approach their local sellers wherever the agent is on how to, again, co-market that listing around the world with their own army. So we create different fee structures. We have different ways of doing this, but so that's essentially. And then the last thing we do is, yes, so many agents around the world. and this is the frightening part. Have clients right now, and you, Gary, as well, I promise you this.
Okay.
You have clients in your database right now that have already bought real estate outside of where you live.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
They didn't call you because they only knew you to be the local expert. And what we do is we teach agents on how to truly brand themselves and create content, and also legally, and I want to say this again, legally co-market listings of other GMA members that give the authorization with the sellers, to where now you, Gary, you can create your own global real estate portfolio within minutes with the technology that we have. So now, when you're posting these listings in Spain or Portugal, in Morocco, wherever you want to, the engagement you get on your social media is frightening, because people are going to start asking you questions. And here is the $1 million question, Gary. One of them will say, Gary, it's amazing you posted this new listing in Spain. My husband and I were there last week, and we were wondering on how to buy real estate there. Can you help us?
Nice. Yeah. You know, it's interesting, but one of the inspirations for me creating the Global Investor Agent Team was because I was traveling around US and Canada teaching agents how to work with investors, because they weren't being taught. Their brokers were not teaching them about investing. They had to go to the commercial to learn investing. And yet most investors are not in commercial. They're just simply buying fourplexes and duplexes and flipping homes, which is all residential. So I studied it, and thankfully there's enough data. It showed me what I believe was true, which is 56% of the time, investors are buying outside their area. They're buying out of their state, out of their province, out of their country. And I thought, well, this is what I needed to validate that I know if we had a national team, it would work. It's really a network of agents across the U.S. and in Canada and some other countries too. And so when they brand themselves, they don't brand themselves, the Jane Doe team in Atlanta, Georgia. There's a lot of it. Most agents are still doing that. Like you just said, most agents, 99.9%, sadly, are still building a local brand. And that's fine if that's what they want to do. But the fact is the world is far more mobile now than it was 10 years ago, 50 years ago. I mean, look at the amount of travel people are doing. The proliferation of information and technology is making it so much easier to do transactions across different states and countries. And I mean, sometimes real estate, I always thought really behind. When I got into real estate, I was shocked at how unorganized and chaotic it was. Now it's much better with the onset of the organizational model, technology, and things like that. And now with the national MLS that's up and running. But I like what you're doing because it's global, and it's taking that idea and taking it to the whole next level. And after that, we might be the only people in the universe, but maybe we don't know. I don't know. But right now, you're taking maximum. I hate to use the word advantage, but you're leveraging your knowledge of the global business environment and the fact that people are buying a lot of times not where they are, but elsewhere. It's just a fact of life. And if you just simply, everybody listen, this is important. If you just allow yourself to tap into it, reach out to Olivier and find out how you can do it. We're doing it on the investor side, so we're not as broad scale as Olivier, but the idea is the same, which is it's a great, big, beautiful world out there. There's a lot more to the world than just Orlando, Florida, or Dallas, Texas. It's a beautiful world, and this will allow you to be exposed to it, and may lead to you traveling to see some of these places. It's amazing. And so I want to get back to the technicality. So really what you're doing is at the contract level, it's simply an agreement, a co-brokerage agreement. Am I oversimplifying things, or I want to unravel that a little bit, if you don't mind,
Yeah, no, of course. So, so if one of your clients, so there are different. There are 6 agreements. Okay, so that's and each one of them has different things on how they're going to work. But so let's say that you have a client right now that again has a home in the Bahamas, and he's got a relationship with you, that it's an old friend or family or friend of a friend that knows you. that's, the old way, what I call the old way of referral is trying to find someone that you don't know in the Bahamas and then send that referral form, 25%, 30%. And then all you do is you pray literally for everything to go correctly, right? Because there's another thing in the referral business, by doing this for a long time, a lot of time by not knowing the agent, you just referred your client, maybe they don't get along. Maybe the agent locally is not listening to them. Maybe they're not doing enough. And then it frustrates your client. And then your client now is embarrassed to say, hey, Gary, by the way, the agent you gave me is not working out. So now your client is just going to go on their own to find their own agent. They're going to do the transaction and you're going to be taken out of the equation completely.
Yeah.
And so now to go back on the technicality of it. So the new way, the GMA way, is that you and the client are the most important because you have the relationship. So this first agreement that you'll do with them is literally the equivalence of a listing agreement that you would do where you live today. I mean, from everything, the duration, the price, the commission structure, like every single part of it. Number one, once you have that listing in your pocket, so to say, then yes, you need to find an agent where the property is located, right? To do what needs to be done within the regulations of that country, the state, the province, everything else. That agent is going to, do the pictures, the sign in the yard, everything that they're going to be your eyes and ears. But here's the biggest part of it. That agent would have never had that listing if it was not for you. All right.
Yeah.
Because now this is where you actually make more money rather than taking just a 25 or 30% referral fee on a commission. Now you can negotiate a percentage from the sale of the house when it sells. And a lot of times, a lot of our agents who go through this, they actually get 1.5% on the listing side. And again, a lot of agents say, well, why would that agent over there take 1.5%? Again, he would have never had that listing if it was not for you. And that agent now can put a sign in the yard, which creates more calls down the street. He can do an open house, maybe get more clients down the street. So it's a win-win for everyone involved. Now, on the co-marketing side, there are other agreements because now, let's say that it's you and an agent in the Bahamas. Let's say me in Dallas, I want to co-market this property. Now I need to agree to some terms with you as far as what I can and cannot do because I'm not licensed in the Bahamas. I've never been to that property. I have to obey your marketing terms to the T. Literally, because again, I don't want to misrepresent anything, price, information. And then there is what we call a commission or a fee disbursement agreement. And so if I'm involved in the transaction, let's say if I start co-marketing this property to my huge sphere of influence that I have, because I've been doing this for over 30 years now. And let's say that I have an agent from California who calls me and says, Olivier, I just saw this listing in the Bahamas that you've been promoting on your LinkedIn, and I know someone that wants it. So now what I do is I call you directly. You call that agent in the Bahamas. We have a 3-way phone call and we say, hey, listen, we need to include this agent with the buyer. Right. So I step to the side, you step to the side, and now that agent in California who has the buyer is directly dealing with the agent in the Bahamas. Because that's where everything happens from inspection, from financial, anything that's there. And at the end of the day, you will contact, well, actually our system does it, will contact all the other co-marketing agents around the world who were co-marketing this Bahamas listing with a notification that says, thank you very much, but the listing just sold or, went under option. Please stop everything you're doing on the marketing side. And it was, the client was brought up by one of the co-marketing agents in Dallas. So that communication itself is automatic, but it works very well because how we came up with this system, my mother and I, a long time ago, we were marketing castles in Scotland.
Nice.
Big ones. 27 million, 30 million and up. And That's the million dollar question. Who buys castles, and where do you put these listings, right? These multi-million dollar listings. Well, you can put them in Unique Homes, Report, DuPont, and pay thousands and thousands of dollars. And I hate to tell you, but the people who call on these ads that they see in the magazine are not actual buyers. They're people. I call them the dreamers, dreamers. Because when you ask them, I need proof of funds or I need this letter of intent, you'll never hear from them ever again. All right.
Right.
And so then you got to start thinking, okay, I need to know more about who buys castles. Well, it's people who love antiques. Then you go, okay, we're the biggest antiques dealers in the world. And then you take the world map, you go here, here, and there. And then in those locations, you go and find co-marketing agents with an enticing commission structure, and that's how you get these property to move.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's a lot to say, I know.
It is very, very exciting. And I know we're going to run short on time here. We always do with stuff like this. It's just a very unique and exciting subject. Now, as far as if someone was to be part of your network, is there a certain like training that they get? Material. Can you touch on that a little bit, so people, because I've got a feeling people are going to want to reach out to you. My mission here is to help get the word out as much as possible, because I not only believe it, I've experienced it personally. So it's real. Everybody listening, this is real. Okay. So
this really works. I'd love to invite anyone that's listening to this to our free school group that we have. I'll send you the link, Gary, that way you can post it. I provide a lot of free content as well on there, free education. So it's a great way to network. And then, we on globalmarketingagent.com. So globalmarketingagent.com, and I'll send you the link as well, Gary, for you to post it. That's, people can go on there and obviously review a lot of information on there. It's very affordable into what you're trying to do on the marketing side of it. If people want to reach out to me, rather than me giving my personal email, because my first name is somewhat Olivier, sometimes people mess it up. They forget the I in there. So it would be to do info@globalmarketingagent.com. That way it's very easy and it comes to me essentially, but I'll send you all that information. But the last thing I will tell you, Gary, is last year and every year for the last few years, when I look at the NAR numbers of transactions, after, at the end of the year, they say, okay, this many agent did this and that many agent did that. In 2025, it was close to 73 or 74% of agents last year who did not have one transaction, right? Zero.
Wow.
Right?
Holy cow.
So out of 1.5 or 1.6 million realtors, when you do that 70%, that's close to 900 or so thousand agents. And it blows my mind, because if they did what we just talked about on the social media with posting this content about global and, hey, why not Portugal or Costa Rica or Belize, you will do at least one referral a year for someone in your sphere of influence. You will. It's impossible not to. It really is. And once you start scratching the surface within your sphere of influence, so people that have bought outside of your jurisdiction, as an agent, you're going to get mad. You're going to get mad because you're going to realize that your friends that you call your friends did not call you when they bought in Utah, in Colorado, in Costa Rica, or in Portugal.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like that. So for everybody listening, and again, we'll have this in the show notes. So if you're driving, you don't need to write this down. If you are sitting down, you go ahead and jot down the notes here. The website is globalmarketingagent.com. Okay. And you can send an email to info@globalmarketingagent.com. And as far as school, is that the new SKOOL? It's a training platform. Excellent.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And actually, when they go on globalmarketingagent.com, there's a join our community all the way down at the bottom of the website. So just click on that. So like you said, if they're driving or listening, they can just go to Global Marketing Agent, scroll all the way down, join our community. And school, if you haven't heard of it, it's fantastic.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of my most recent training has been on school, and I like it. So it's basically hybrid. Some of it we're doing on Zoom, some are with the phone, some on the actual school platform. And really, the biggest thing of all, and this is true in real estate in general, is the best way to learn this business is to end up doing it. You can read and study and go to class all you want, but guys, you just have to do it. I know it sounds like a cliche, but in real estate, it is really true because every client is different, every house is different, every province is different, every state's different, every country is different. The only way to learn it is just do it, and turn fear into faith. Reach out to someone like Olivier. Okay, who's like me. We found out that teaching is a lot of fun, and we love people, so we get to be doing the thing we love to do. And there's what you're getting out of it. I promise you this: you're going to be pleasantly surprised. I always tell people, they're always afraid of paying a certain. It's like an expense, and I'm thinking, well, think of it. What did it cost you to go to university? What did it cost you to send your children to university? What are they getting out of it? And look at what you're doing here. I mean, my gosh, I have people on my team that routinely make several over $600,000 a year, and even more, even some over $1 million a year. But this is not a pipe dream. It's very real, but you have to get in the game and start swinging the bat to do it. So, Olivier, I just want to thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
It's been one of my most fun podcasts.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad where you and I are in the same field and the same. That turns out we're in the same company. At least your mom is. We're in the same organization.
Yeah.
So that's even better. But I do see a bright future for us. I would definitely love to collaborate more. I'm just thinking about the mindset, the client base, and in my experience, there's definitely a lot of potential collaboration for us in our organizations. And I hope other people out there listening will take advantage of this. The best place to be in anything that's new to you is in the front. Don't wait because then you'll be in the back of the bus. You want to be in the front of the bus when these things get going. Yeah. So, Olivia, thank you again very much.
You're very welcome.
Tell your mom Audrey said hello.
I will.
And for everybody listening, God bless all of you and your loved ones. And we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.